All right, we are going to be talking about the last three of the 7 things you should avoid if you've been labeled with fibromyalgia. So as a quick review, the first 4 we talked about were sugar, aspartame, monosodium glutamate, and caffeine. And if you missed that, just go back and pick up those pointers. And I want to reiterate that I call it being labeled with fibromyalgia because that's what it is. Just being called, hey, I have fibromyalgia, or a diagnosis, that really isn't telling us much. The diagnosis of fibromyalgia is it's pretty generic. I mean, there's, as you already can tell by the things I've told you to avoid and why, there's a lot of different reasons why you could get labeled with fibromyalgia. And the real point is why do you feel that way? Is it an immune system dysfunction? Is it a neurological dysfunction of the frontal lobe or someplace like that? So if you've been labeled with this, please don't own it and don't just give up. Investigate it and let's find out what the heck is really going on. Now, until you find out what's really going on, here's some other things that you can avoid. So the 5th thing on our list is gluten. Now, if you know me at all, I have a big opinion on gluten because I have seen it ruin the health of so many people. Gluten is a protein that's found in wheat, barley, rye, and a few other grains. And there's nothing wrong with gluten unless you have a problem with it. And the problem is about 70% of the United States Caucasian population has the genes that make them react to gluten, which means when they eat it, their immune system thinks it's an invader, it fires up and tries to kill it. The problem that everybody has with understanding this is that you don't have to have any symptoms. I mean, I spent 2 weeks ago, I spent a weekend teaching a neurotransmitters and brain seminar in Houston to a room full of doctors, and I had a hard time getting them to understand this. When you eat gluten and your immune system becomes inflamed and your immune system reacts, you don't necessarily know it. If you're lucky, you're the type of person who knows that when you eat that muffin, you feel like crap afterwards. But most people, even people that are sick, that have things wrong with them, don't have a symptom to go by. In fact, research shows that over 50% of people that have full-blown celiac disease, which is like the worst kind theoretically of gluten sensitivity, they don't have any GI symptoms. So get that out of your head right now. If you really want to give yourself the best chance at feeling better again, get off of gluten and everything that that contains gluten. And there's a lot of resources that I've put together for my practice members to help guide them through this kind of maze, because it's everywhere, folks. Gluten is everywhere. And, whole wheat and all that is not a bad thing unless you have a sensitivity to it. And remember, sensitivity is kind of a bad word. We want to say you're having a reaction to it. And you don't know if you are or not. There's a couple of tests that we can do that will tell us if you're having a reaction and will tell us if you have the genes that make you sensitive. Because you can have a gluten problem either because you have the genetics for it or because you've developed what's called a leaky gut. And a leaky gut means that particles of proteins and other things fall back through into your system and your immune system recognizes them as invaders and now it's programmed. It's waiting to see those things again. So I have seen hundreds of people in my practice, hundreds of all ages, have a reaction to gluten that they didn't know. That when we got on a gluten-free diet, the majority, if not all of their problems started to resolve. Now, gluten is not the thing that causes all diseases or something stupid like that, but it is a huge, huge factor, especially if you've been ill or sick for any length of time and no one knows what's wrong. That's number 5. Number 6 is dairy. Now, the first thing people say is, well, I thought, the dairy in milk, the calcium, made my bones strong. Well, that's a whole other issue we can talk about some other time because calcium is really not the issue when we're talking about osteoporosis. It's really cofactors. And in fact, you know what, I will. I'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. But dairy is this. Dairy is a major protein, and many people that have fibromyalgia have a leaky gut, the one I just talked about, which means instead of having gaps between your cells and your intestines that look like this, they look like that. Things fall back through, and casein is a major protein, and you can develop a food reaction to it, an allergy, if you will, which means when you eat casein, it inflames your body, fires up your immune system, and all heck breaks loose. Because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but when your immune system becomes activated, it affects everything. Your blood sugar, hormone levels, thyroid. So as you can tell, it gets fairly complicated real quickly. So I don't recommend you eat casein. Now, what do you find casein in? Anything made from dairy. The only exception to that would be butter. Now, butter is a lipid, it's a fat. It's not supposed to have protein in it, but to make really sure, you'd have to get something called ghee, Ghee, clarified butter, to make sure you have no protein. So casein comes in a lot of forms. There's ice cream, there's yogurt. You really shouldn't have any of those things. In reality, you should be on a gluten-free and a casein-free diet. Now, number 7. What's number 7? Number 7 is soy. But I thought soy was heart healthy. It's good. Don't believe it. Soy is really cheap, and yes, there are some good compounds that are in soy, like genistein and some isoflavones. But the soy protein, since it's everywhere, it's almost like casein and gluten. It's so large and so widespread that if you've developed a leaky gut, and I really haven't found a patient labeled with fibromyalgia yet who doesn't have a leaky gut, when you eat those major proteins, you're just fueling the fire. You're just stoking the fire and putting more gasoline on the flames that are already burning and screwing up your body. So soy protein is in everything too. You have to read labels. Soy milk, it's used as a filler. Now, one thing that I think you probably can get away with is soy lecithin, because that's actually a fat from soy, and it seems to really have no allergenic properties. Now, soybean oil, I would avoid that. I just definitely would avoid soybean oil, but soy lecithin seems to be refined enough, because they use it in damn near everything, that doesn't seem to have the problem. But really, if I were you, if I really wanted to make a change and start feeling better, I would be on a gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free diet. And anybody else that's watching this that hasn't been labeled with a fibromyalgia, with just about any health condition, do yourself a favor, go on that diet for 60, 90 days and tell me you don't feel better. Now, there's a lot of other things that you would need to know about what's going on with you individually. I mean, are you autoimmune? Are you not autoimmune? What is your blood sugar function? What is your hormone function? But on a basic level, you can change these dietary things, like avoiding aspartame, avoiding MSG, sugar in all the forms we talked about, avoiding gluten, casein, and soy, and caffeine. If you do that, you're going to have a hard time not feeling better. So feel free to take that advice, which is not medical advice, by the way, just so we make our legal disclaimers. But I'd like to hear back from you. I'd like you to come back to the blog and post a comment and let me know how you're feeling, because people are emailing me privately all the time. In fact, I think I'll read one of those to you next episode, about people that are taking these general dietary advices. We're really not even getting to the complexities of things, and their condition and their health is turning around. I can't wait to share some of these with you. So, by the way, today I'm coming from my sort of a mini studio. If you see behind me, I've got some posters and things that I make that I teach from. So I thought I would just mix it up and give you a different variety of what the office looks like and kind of what does my day look like. So maybe next time I'll show you what the exam room looks like. So you guys have a great day and take my advice. You will feel better, and avoid those 7 things if you've been labeled with fibromyalgia or even have fibromyalgia symptoms. And I'll go you one better. Be somebody's hero. If you know somebody that's struggling with this, send them the link to this blog. Let them make up their own mind. But you'll be their hero, and they will thank you for it, because they will feel better. Okay, you guys have a good day. We'll talk to you soon. This is Dr. Clark signing off. This is The Place for Answers.